Hello and welcome to the first of 9 classes in the Psychology of Eating series, with the class today titled The Healthy Journey. As we will see today, it is no coincidence that this topic leads off the Psychology of Eating series. The essence of the Healthy Journey philosophy is that for us to be successful with weight loss, we must embrace a long-term perspective. We will be managing our weight, for better or for worse, for the rest of our lives. And this means that rushing to lose weight as fast as possible, or using gimmicks to achieve rapid weight loss, aren't just usually doomed to failure and weight regain. They're actually counterproductive in the long run because they don't give us the time to master the skills that we need to be successful. I also begin the Psychology of Eating series with the Healthy Journey topic because it is the direct opposite of the weight loss philosophy typically advertised by the weight loss industry. Highlighting the shortcomings of this weight loss industry message is where I would like for us to begin today. Here, briefly, is an overview of where we are headed over the next 9 classes. Following our Healthy Journey topic today, we will next cover the healthy identity effect in our next class, followed then by the topic Thinking Thin, where we will explore ways to improve your thinking and self-talk to achieve better weight loss results. From there, we will then move into the topics of motivation and confidence for weight loss, and discuss ways to improve your relationships with exercise and food. Finally, we will conclude the series by looking at a new perspective on weight loss plateaus and discuss ways to improve your physical and social environments to support a healthier lifestyle. By the end of this series, you should feel vastly more knowledgeable about the role of psychology in your weight loss efforts and be able to apply literally hundreds of practical strategies to get better weight loss results. You may recall from our introductory class that there is a pattern in the way that we are generally taught to lose weight in America. This pattern looks something like what we see here on this slide. Generally, we want to lose weight fast and prioritize methods that lose weight the fastest. We make most of our weight loss decisions based on advertising, television, and personal testimonials, all of which are highly biased sources of information. Thirdly, rarely, if ever, will you see a discussion in standard American weight loss plans of the long term. That is, how will you keep the weight off after living off protein shakes, eating a zero-carb diet, or suffering through prepackaged diet meals for months and months? And lastly, the annual New Year's resolution cycle concerning weight loss in the U.S. is to jump headlong into some sort of ambitious diet or exercise program, give up or get injured within weeks to months, and end the year mostly where you started, just in time to ride the next weight loss bandwagon following the next holiday season. There are several conclusions that you might draw from seeing tens of millions of Americans engaging in this futile cycle of weight loss efforts each year. For one, you might think that Americans are just crazy, or even gluttons for punishment, for doing this to themselves over and over. You might also question your fellow Americans' sanity for willingly doing the same thing over and over again while expecting a different result. Third, if you were either very perceptive or perhaps just a cynic, you might think that this pattern of convincing Americans to follow this weight loss roller coaster ride year after year is intentional. Personally, I believe that the third conclusion is the closest to correct because there is a clear and compelling reason for convincing the American population to lose weight this way. That reason is that it is hugely profitable. The weight loss industry is gigantic and still growing, exceeding $50 billion in annual revenue, and heavily dependent on their ability to convince us to purchase diet and exercise products, weight loss supplements, and to watch well-paid weight loss experts give advice that coincidentally is mostly for you and I to use the latest diet, exercise, and supplement products. You might consider the weight loss industry a kind of pyramid scheme, where the only people who are successful being the few people at the top selling all of the weight loss merchandise. With decades of practice to refine their technique, the weight loss industry has become incredibly skilled at selling the idea that you need what they have to offer. Because the weight loss industry is unlikely to change their ways, this leaves the only realistic solution being for you and I to opt out of this game and find our own solution. Broken down into specific pieces for clarity, this slide shows the core elements of standard weight loss industry advertising. Their messages are myths because they are untrue despite having a convincing ring to them. In nearly all of the cases here, the truth is the opposite of the message that the industry is advertising. For example, the science is very clear that the type of diet matters relatively little for weight loss, and that is a marked contrast to the usual weight loss industry message that you in fact need to follow very specific diets for success. The question you might ask is, if the diet doesn't really matter, what does? And the answer, of course, is calories, as any neutral metabolic scientist will tell you. It similarly doesn't matter what kind of exercise you do. What does matter is finding a way to be routinely physically active, however you do it. Thirdly, there is not a single weight loss supplement endorsed by the FDA as effective, despite nutrition stores selling such products by the hundreds. Now, there are, of course, a handful of FDA-approved prescription medicines for weight loss, but there are no effective herbal remedies or general weight loss supplements. And lastly, willpower is certainly helpful for getting us started with something. But willpower is a finite resource, and it is not something that you can rely on as a long-term solution for something like weight loss. If essentially everything that the weight loss industry claims is untrue, and primarily told to us for the purpose of convincing us to buy weight loss products, what is true about weight loss? These 4 points summarize the truth about weight loss about as well as I can in a single slide. You don't see these messages advertised very often because they are difficult to monetize. I can sell you an exercise product, for example, but I can't sell you something on your inside, such as motivation or a better relationship with food. Similarly, I can promote a supplement, but I can't sell you a skill. This creates a conundrum. The ingredients that are most important to long-term weight loss success aren't things that you can sell very easily, and that means that there is no incentive to advertise them. Worse, teaching people what really works can even harm profit margins because people will start losing weight more independently and more successfully rather than coming back for new weight loss products. Now let's examine the healthy journey philosophy regarding weight loss. We will do this over the next 3 slides by making a point-by-point contrast between tenets of the healthy journey philosophy versus those of the standard American weight loss industry. The first comparison is the contrast between the rapid weight loss philosophy endorsed in most weight loss advertising versus the take your time approach endorsed by the healthy journey philosophy. The classic story of the tortoise and the hare in Aesop's fables is now thousands of years old. Everybody knows it, yet we mostly ignore it and keep trying to find shortcuts to our weight loss goals. Second is the contrast between following a diet based on how fast it promises to help you lose weight. For example, no-carb diets that commonly advertise how much weight you will lose in the first week, when most of that weight loss is just water loss rather than body fat, versus the long-term mentality endorsed by the healthy journey philosophy, where you want to develop a diet plan or a new way of eating that you can maintain long-term. Who cares about losing 10 pounds in the first week if you will be off the diet and back to your old weight in a month because you can't tolerate the highly restrictive diet? The third point is the mirror of the second, but replaces exercise for diet. I often see exercise programs marketed to play up the number of calories burned per minute or per hour. The problem is that burning lots of calories fast through exercise means that you have to exercise really hard, and this makes it painful and usually exhausting, if not also injury-prone. Unless you are the type of person who happens to enjoy high-intensity exercise, then maximum caloric expenditure is not something that you should emphasize regarding your choice of exercise. What you should consider instead is the healthy journey philosophy that exercise choices be based primarily on fun and sustainability. Unless you are able to do the exercise long-term, none of the benefits will last. So why not choose from the start forms of exercise that you can realistically see yourself enjoying? The next 3 philosophy differences refer to the short-term focus of traditional weight loss programs versus the longer-term focus of the healthy journey philosophy, and the focus on external diet and exercise products in the traditional weight loss programs versus the focus on internal changes in the healthy journey approach. The common emphasis on the short term and dependence on weight loss programs or weight loss experts for your success will make it difficult for a person to ever develop the independent skills necessary to escape the weight loss and weight regain roller coaster so common in America. The final 3 points from the Healthy Journey philosophy capture separate but important themes. The first is the need for flexibility and change over time. Although a part of us may wish that weight loss could be as simple as following a short set of static rules, this sort of simple approach rarely works for long because our lives are constantly changing. Whatever is working for us now will probably need to evolve as our circumstances change, and unless we are willing to adapt as needed to new developments, we are probably then stuck with short-term success as our ceiling. Second is the important shift from rating your success in terms of numbers on the scale to the broader ways that your weight loss is improving your quality of life. As you may recall, we discussed last time that weight loss can actually make your life worse rather easily if approached in an unhealthy way, such as through overly strict dieting or excessive exercise. Your goal probably isn't just weight loss, but certain kinds of lifestyle, health, or emotional improvements that you want to come with your weight loss. This makes it important to frame your weight loss approach right from the start around the concept of improving your quality of life. This kind of shift, for instance, might mean going hiking instead of walking on a treadmill so that your exercise is also getting you outdoors, creating some novelty and adventure, and perhaps sharing experiences with friends. Third and lastly is the liberating idea of enjoying your entire weight loss journey instead of just the part of the journey after you've reached your weight loss goal. Once you've made the decision to take on the healthy journey approach to weight loss, why not feel good about yourself that you are embracing the need for personal change, committing to a long-term effort, and taking personal responsibility for the changes that you need to make? This certainly sounds like something worth feeling good about to me. Many of us have been taught, unfortunately, that the way to make ourselves do things is through criticism and guilt trips. This approach never works for long, and events from your own life are probably testimonials for this. What works much better in practice is treating yourself like someone who deserves to succeed and caring for yourself, even while you're also still pushing yourself to change. Another useful perspective on the healthy journey concept is to make a comparison to what is known as the hero's journey. The hero's journey is the work of the late mythology professor Joseph Campbell, who recognized emergent themes across the mythologies of ancient cultures. Although most of us have read stories of mythology, such as Hercules and the 12 Labors or St. George and the Dragon, people tend to dismiss these as fantasies or children's stories. Dr. Campbell recognized that the meaning of these myths was much deeper and summarized his work in pictures like that seen on this slide. The heroes from most of these ancient culture stories were found to follow a pattern where they began as relatively ordinary people who then encountered events or circumstances that forced them out of their ordinary life and onto a path of adversity and personal transformation. It was the difficulty of the path they were forced to walk that fulfilled their potential for becoming a hero. We see versions of this hero's journey pattern in many modern movies and books, with the big picture point that mythical heroes are intended to represent transformed versions of ourselves that become possible if we also have the courage to face adversity and develop our own potential. I show this here because the emphasis on ordinary people going through a personal transformation to be able to do the extraordinary is also what we were talking about with the healthy journey approach to weight loss. Both the hero's journey and the healthy journey are journeys whose destination will only be reached through personal development, in this case by a person willing to become wiser, stronger, and more skillful about the process of weight management. Also, like the hero's journey, the healthy journey involves changes in two distinct areas for a person. First is the physical component, consisting of the exercise, weight loss, improved fitness, and other physical changes. And then secondly, the mental, spiritual, and emotional component that is often just as important to success, even if most of these latter changes are invisible to the naked eye. The healthy journey philosophy can be usefully broken into three distinct stages, called the learning stage, the independence stage, and the mastery stage. Remember, taking care of your weight is a rest of your life kind of goal, so you and everyone else will always be in one of these three stages. The goal is to help you advance through the stages by first helping you to recognize where you are, and secondly identifying what kinds of changes you need in order to progress. This is not unlike the hypothetical situation of finding yourself lost in the jungle and using a map to determine where you are headed, and what route you must follow in order to get there. This is also where weight loss research from the last couple of decades is particularly helpful, because this research allows us to specify what kinds of goals and skills are needed for people at each of these different stages. Let's take a more detailed look at each one of these three stages. The learning stage of the healthy journey is where almost everyone needs to begin. Many people sadly try to skip this stage by buying supplements or going on popular diets where they don't have to think or learn anything beyond following some simple rules. This pursuit of simplicity in weight loss, ironically, is precisely why these people tend to fail most of the time, namely because this weight loss approach forces them to rely almost totally on some external diet plan, and they therefore never learn the skills to succeed on their own. The learning stage is, in a way, like going to college or to a trade school in order to learn a craft. It is like going through boot camp in the military, where a person goes through an intense physical and mental transformation in a short period of time. It is also, at least in some ways, similar to joining a martial art, where, as you may know, you begin with a white belt and focus on the basics before then trying to do spinning roundhouse kicks like the characters in action movies. If you remember the movie The Karate Kid, you may remember an early scene when the boy started working out with the martial arts sensei. At that point, he was assigned what appeared to be seemingly mindless chores like painting fences for hours on end. The boy, as you know, he wanted to learn how to fight, not learn how to paint. And because of this, he nearly gave up because he failed to see how those chores were in fact a great way to begin mastering the mechanics of fighting. It wasn't just painting. The hardest part of the learning stage of weight loss for most people is just plain patience, and that's because it takes time to learn and develop the skills necessary. Our tendency instead is to want to rush through this process and get to the so-called good stuff. The learning stage also requires that you think about yourself and what you, in particular, most need to learn, and that's because your circumstances differ in some important ways from other people. Some people, for instance, know a lot about nutrition, whereas others have never even looked so much at a food label. Some people have long histories in sports or athletics and physical activity, whereas some others have almost none of this experience. The question is, what are the areas of knowledge and skill that are most holding you back, and that you could perhaps most benefit from learning? And how could you acquire this information? This support group class is designed in spirit for people like yourselves who have completed an initial weight loss program that provided you with basic information about nutrition and exercise, as well as perhaps experience with tools such as food logs, activity trackers, and regular weighing habits. Many people do well in these introductory weight loss programs, but then struggle once they end the program, and that's because they have either missed or ignored the second vital stage of weight loss that I here call the independence stage. Unfortunately, many weight loss programs seem to think that people graduate from their versions of the learning stage and then immediately leap to the mastery stage that we talk about in the next slide. In reality, hardly anyone goes from being a beginner in weight loss to an expert in weight loss in this short order, and this is in part why there is such a high rate of weight regain even after people have had sometimes very impressive initial success in weight loss programs. The truth is that most people need an additional period of time of less structured but still important skill development in order to allow them to become more independent with their weight loss. The independent stage here refers more specifically to the period of time in which you are taking the knowledge and habits that you have acquired and learning how to flexibly apply them in your own particular circumstances. This stage also refers to the process of increasingly becoming the metaphorical captain of your own weight loss ship, as you learn to rely less and less on classes and weight loss professionals and more on your own knowledge and practical experience. Having long-term success with weight loss will absolutely require that you become more independent in terms of your skills and weight management abilities, unless, that is, you intend to spend the rest of your life in classes or, say, working with a personal trainer. In some ways, the independent stage is relatively similar to, say, going off to graduate school after finishing a bachelor's degree. As you may know, in graduate school, there are far fewer classes and exams relative to college. Instead, graduate students are intentionally being trained as young professionals in their fields, given increasing leadership and independence to do their own research and intellectual projects. Consider this, just to extend the metaphor a little further. If you took a college graduate and had them skip medical school and go right to treating patients, what's likely to happen? A couple of key goals regarding the independent stage. One is that you are learning in the independent stage how to use your tools regarding weight loss more strategically rather than needing them all at the time, such as using food logs to help yourself get through a weight loss plateau, or weighing yourself once a week instead of every day. Not relying on the tools as much forces you to develop a greater level of personal skill, and that's the intent of this stage. You will never, for example, learn to navigate a car very well if you always rely on the internal GPS. Similarly, in the independent stage, you, by intention, decrease the frequency of your visits with weight loss providers and programs, and that's specifically so that you can figure out how to handle challenges more and more on your own. In this stage, you are making the mindset shift of seeing your new eating, exercise, and overall lifestyle habits as permanent features of your life and making changes as needed to keep them sustainable. Lastly, although you are intentionally reducing, you're not trying to cut yourself off from professional help. You need to learn when you've reached the limits of your skills and also when to ask for help at times. Just in the same way as sometimes even a professional athlete will require assistance from coaches and trainers at times to help them get through a sticking point or to get even better. The third stage of the healthy journey is the mastery stage. If you wanted to make an analogy for this stage, consider it as the equivalent of a person with a PhD or a black belt in a martial art. It reflects a person who has gained so much skill and knowledge in their craft that they can perform at a high level without much visible effort. Think of this like a professional athlete who is able to do amazing things with their body, such as dunking a basketball while making it look easy. It is easy, perhaps, for them because of the years of skill development that they have completed behind the scenes in order to reach that level of proficiency. One reason that I use the black belt analogy with the mastery stage is that, if you didn't already know this, a black belt is not the end. For example, there are, I believe, 10 different degrees of black belts in karate, meaning that even once you have reached the already impressive black belt stage, there is still lots of room for continued growth. Referring specifically to the mastery stage of weight loss, these are the people who are so well practiced that they eat right, exercise regularly, and practice good health habits without needing to self-discipline or force themselves to do these things. Healthy living is just who they are. It's not just something that they do. This allows them to resist temptation without much visible effort. Instead of seeming deprived or stressed about their health habits, they actually enjoy them, and this usually resonates across them in terms of benefits such as having good moods, high energy levels, and interesting lifestyles. One factor that helps people at the mastery stage stay on track instead of becoming complacent is that they often become role models for others. On one hand, this gives them the rewarding feeling of helping other people, and it also puts a kind of positive peer pressure on them to maintain their habits. Most everyone wants to reach the mastery stage, and the truth is, most people can, if they accept that this is just as much of a time and energy-intensive process to reach the mastery stage as it is for a person to, say, reach and maintain the skill level of a black belt with a martial art. Another important piece of the healthy journey philosophy is that, like any lengthy journey, you need to make a plan if you are serious about getting to your destination. Imagine two boats leaving the same harbor, one captained by a crew with a map and a clear destination, and the second boat adrift with no guidance. The first boat is very likely to reach its destination eventually, even if it encounters bad weather or obstacles along the way, whereas the second boat is likely to end up as a shipwreck or lost at sea. Between your present weight and quality of life and your desired future, your healthy journey plan represents a kind of mental bridge. The most important parts of your healthy journey plan are not just the weight that you would like to reach, however, but also the personal, social, and other lifestyle changes that you will need to make in order to get there. This is where weight loss plans become, to some extent, individual. Successful weight loss isn't the result of a simple script that each person follows in the same way. Instead, each of us has to consider our own personal circumstances and strengths and resources and barriers in deciding how to chart our own course. In the spirit of identifying potential barriers and obstacles in your own healthy journey, this slide contains a list of common areas where people working on weight loss tend to struggle relative to people maintaining healthy weight levels. As you look at each row in this table, think about which of these areas are something that you may have struggled with in the past, or that you can anticipate struggling with in the future. Now spend a moment and specifically identify up to 3 of these areas that present probably the biggest obstacles to your weight loss success. Circle these on your handout or write them down for emphasis. If you believe that the obstacle or obstacles that are most difficult specifically for you are not on this list at all, then write down your own items. The point here is to identify these potential barriers up front when you are in the best position to plan for them and to develop preferably several ways of responding to them if or when they arise. One practical piece of the healthy journey philosophy that deserves extra emphasis is the importance of letting yourself enjoy and feel good about the process of improving right now. Far too often, people associate the weight loss process with feelings such as misery and deprivation, and those feelings then set them up to fail. The truth is that the process of weight loss can be rewarding and empowering, even though it will, of course, at times also be frustrating and discouraging. If you don't let yourself enjoy the rewards of the personal transformation process, and let's be frank, that's what the process of weight loss really is, it's a process of personal transformation, then you are ultimately making your weight loss goal that much harder to achieve. The question to ask is, how can you enjoy the weight loss process and not just the long-term result of losing weight? Thankfully, there are many answers to this that allow you to be both creative and flexible. For example, some simple answers are taking pride in who you are now and who you are becoming. This is a much better perspective than looking at yourself with dislike or disgust. See yourself like a piece of clay that an artist may be using to mold into something remarkable. See yourself like a classic car that has perhaps been left in the yard for years, but that you are now slowly restoring. See yourself like an athlete returning to their sport with new passion and hungry for victory after a long layoff. Secondly, set milestones for yourself that include rewards as you reach small benchmarks along your journey. Thirdly, a great way to start enjoying the process of weight loss early is to start doing some forms of the things that you want to do at your long-term goal weight right now. If you want to get back to running someday, for example, start by signing up for a local 5K event and walk it. If you want to be more social or outgoing again someday, start now with some smaller scale activities and then build up as you are losing weight and feeling more confident in yourself. The key is to start living the life that you want to have now instead of postponing that life to the day when you reach your long-term weight loss goal. Ironically, learning to enjoy your life more now will actually motivate you for further weight loss because you will then see your life getting better and better as you make progress. And that concludes our discussion of the Healthy Journey topic. The Healthy Journey represented our first class in this series because it provides both a philosophical and practical foundation for the psychology of eating system topics that we will cover in the future. The Healthy Journey represents the long game approach to weight management, and the long game approach is really the only approach that will ever produce lasting results, notwithstanding all of the weight loss industry advertising to the contrary. For more details about the Healthy Journey topic, you can access the full chapter in the Psychology of Eating book and can access the slides we covered today with audio content at this YouTube link.